Welcome and good evening. My name is Annette Stransky. I'm president of the Saratoga Historical Foundation. Before we start, please turn off your mic and video camera because we are recording the presentation. If you have any questions, use chat at the bottom of your screen. Questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. So once again, please turn off your mic and video camera because we are recording the presentation. So next slide, please. The mission of the Saratoga Historical Foundation is to preserve the rich history of Saratoga for the education and enjoyment of the community. We have a 1904 building which houses our museum with information about Saratoga's history and a special exhibit called The History of the Interurban Rail. You can see a furnished 1850s pioneer cottage, come inside a one-room schoolhouse and take your photo. We also have a series of events such as pioneer living classes, lectures, exhibits, scholarship, and more. So please come and visit us at 20450 Saratoga Los Gatos Road. Next slide, please. Our co-sponsor is the Saratoga IOOF. The Saratoga Lodge was founded on April 20th, 1912, during the same time the Oddfellows home was opened. Throughout the years, the lodge included orchardists, farmers, as well as local Saratoga business owners and a myriad of others. All truly believed in the Oddfellows creed of friendship, love, and truth. Fast forward to today, and the lodge has seen a resurgence in membership, now with around 60 members. The Saratoga Lodge meets every second and fourth Tuesday, with the fourth Tuesday reserved for socializing. Contact the lodge at saratogaoddfellows@gmail.com or go up to their website. We've been having a series of lectures all year, and on October 25th at 7 p.m. on Zoom, author Joseph Page will talk about the Onizika Air Force Base Blue Cube. The Air Force was the first military organization solely charged with military satellite operations, and an interim satellite control facility was moved to the Lockheed Missiles and Space Company facility in Sunnyvale in 1960. The Blue Cube, the nickname of the main building at Onizika Air Force Base, was a 5-story windowless building surrounded by radar antenna and painted blue. And for many years, it was Silicon Valley's ground zero, the most likely target in the event of a Soviet nuclear attack. On January 26, 1994, Sunnyvale AFS was renamed Onizika AFS in honor of Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Ellison S. Onizika, an astronaut who died on the Challenger explosion. Riding the Rails will come on November 17th at 7 p.m. on Zoom with historian Ray Cousin. This is the story of the Interurban Rail, which was installed from 1904 to 1934 and served as interim transportation between traveling by horse and buggy and cars. The rail was important because it enabled people and goods to travel between San Jose, Los Gatos, Saratoga, and Cupertino inexpensively and quickly. If you need more information, please go up to www.saratogahistory.com and find out about these as well as some of our recorded presentations. Peter Sellars, one of our speakers, is a member of the Independent Order of Oddfellows in San Francisco. He has served on the California Oddfellows Board of Directors, is a past Grand Master and past Grand Patriarch, and is currently California's representative to Sovereign Grand Lodge. He is a Marine Corps veteran and a graduate of Cal State Hayward. Peter is also the author of The History of the Independent Order of Oddfellows in the City of San Francisco and Calling Out from the Past, the First Oddfellows Home in California, and IOOF and the American Civil War. He established and manages the IOOF Museum, along with the downtown Oddfellows building at 7th and Market in San Francisco. Our second speaker will be Rita Cooper. She has been a member of the IOOF for 9 years and has held several positions. She has a degree in business and administration, marketing executive for Shell Oil, Clark's Shoes, and Echo Shoes, for which she founded, and traveled to 42 countries. Now she provides outreach and consultation regarding financial services for retirees. She has an advanced certified scuba diver, and she's been trained by the Voice Factory and is a graduate of the Bennett Theater Lab and Conservatory. So now we're going to hear from Peter.
Well, thank you for that nice introduction. I really appreciate it. And I just want to say it's my pleasure to be here with all of you. I was going to open up and tell you a little bit about the Odd Fellows and its history and lead right into Thermalito home, which takes us to Saratoga. So with that, many of you are probably asking, what is the Odd Fellows organization? And Odd Fellows is being plural here. The answer to this question could take an entire show in itself, but I'll be brief. For over 30 years, I've read many, many Oddfellow books and other books which have given me this conclusion. The origin of the organization varies from one historian to the next, but it all comes back to one agreement, is that the Oddfellows were basically born in England in the early 1700s. The term odd was given to those guilds or trades that didn't, actually the Oddfellows didn't belong to the guilds or trades. That's why it was given the term odd jobs. They came together eventually and created their own organization, which became a beneficial organization for the membership. Members from England made their way to America as early as 1800. In 1805, you see the first lodge beginning in New York, but it wasn't recognized officially yet. It took another 14 years. In 1819, Odd Fellowship became officially established in Baltimore. That being the effort of Thomas Wildey, the father of Odd Fellowship, American Odd Fellowship. He had put a handbill out calling for all members who had belonged to the Odd Fellows in England to meet at a certain tavern, the Seven Stars Tavern. And he managed, after about 3 months, he managed to get 5 members. And they established this lodge. They were able to build on that. They applied for the charter, and on April 26, 1819, Odd Fellowship was born in Baltimore, Maryland. From there, the Odd Fellows spread quickly. I should back up a bit. Odd Fellow, there was a race to see which lodge would be chartered first. There was a lodge in Philadelphia. There was a lodge in New York. There was a lodge in Massachusetts. They were competing, and they were all racing to get their charter first. And that's an interesting story in itself. From there, though, the Odd Fellows spread north, south, and west. It reached California before California was even a state. As early as 1847, the Odd Fellows had a presence in Yerba Buena, which is now San Francisco. They kept trying to hold their membership and get their 5 members as well. It took the gold rush, the discovery of gold and the announcement of gold, to bring enough people over. And Odd Fellowship started in San Francisco, the first lodge, California Lodge number 1, which is still in existence today. Was started September 9th, 1849. So we had an early start. The lodges were rather slow, starting for the first 6 months to a year, because everyone was coming and going from the gold rush. It was hard to hold a lodge together, a quorum. But once it started in 1851, the latter part of 1850, the lodges exploded. You had over 80 lodges in the first 3 years. It was expanding up and down the state. It was seen in every gold mine camp, in nearly every gold mine camp, which is why we started so quickly. Members would travel from one camp to the next. You'd have a lodge up in Iowa Hill in California, which would close up once gold was discovered at another location, and then Oddfellows would spring up in that location. Wherever these gold miner members went, a new lodge would spring up. We have had 700 lodges in this state in our history. So we've had a lot of lodges, and most of those were located in the hills, the gold rush area. The order, well, I'll just jump ahead. The order started experiencing members, well, an interesting note, you can see the lodges in every town today. You have these old buildings that say IOOF at the top. A lot of people confuse that to be 100F as an address, but it is actually IOOF, which is an acronym for Independent Order of Oddfellows. Some people think it's international, it's independent, but we are an international organization. Today, there are about 110 lodges throughout California. Until COVID hit us in 2020, the Oddfellows in California, it was growing. It had shown an increase in membership consecutively for 4 years. In 2021, though, the order slipped back. I'm not sure the exact number, but it might be a few hundred even that we slipped back, and because the lodges have not been meeting regularly. That has hurt us, as it's hurt every organization. What do Oddfellows do today? To be honest, many of the lodges have become philanthropic. And even though that's not our precept or our goal, our what we do, our purpose is to improve the character of mankind. That's what we say we do. But today we are philanthropic. And although all the lodges follow the same ritual and procedure, the activities vary from each lodge. The events vary. Who and what the lodges support vary. But in the majority of the lodges, we see financial support. We give to other nonprofits. We do quite a bit. We volunteer for other nonprofits. We do a great deal in our communities. You can see that being done in the larger lodges, not so much the smaller areas, because the lodge sizes vary. You know, in San Francisco, I'm privileged to belong to a lodge with 280 members, and you may travel to Saratoga, as you mentioned earlier, and they may have 60 members and may not be as active as we are in San Francisco, or the lodge in Davis, which is our largest lodge, nearly 400 members right now. They are extremely active, but they have been on hold too during COVID. But you can see the activities expanded in these larger lodges. The success and failure of a lodge greatly has to do with the activities they choose and how hard they work to remain active. As you know, in any organization, you're only successful as much work as you put into it. And I can tell you, my lodge, and we have a lot of workers. We are successful, and so as any organization, we probably parallel. Since we are presenting this mainly to a Saratoga community, I thought I'd tell you a little bit more about your lodge there. The Saratoga Lodge number 48, it was instituted April 20th, 1912, which would be one of the later lodges. But we'd call that a new lodge, even though it's what, 108 years old, 109 years old. We would call that a newer lodge. The charter members were, I don't know if you recognize any of the names, but the charter members, it's worthy mentioning here. It's Edward Seagrave. He was listed as an orchardist, and William Rice. he was listed as an orchardist. James Lipscomb, he was an orchardist. So you can see it brought a lot of people from agriculture into that area, and that's what it was at one time. And you'll see those in the pictures later on when we look at the home. James Kerr, Thomas Smith, who owned a hall, which was also above his store where the members first held their meetings. So they held their meetings there until they could build a new lodge in 1948. It took 5 members of the lodge, and they donated $30,000 to purchase the property and build the Oddfellows Lodge located on Oak Street. So that tells you a little bit about Oddfellows. I know we could probably go in a lot of directions there, but I want to get into the homes. And at first, years ago, when I wrote my book, Calling Out from the Past, I was intrigued, I was motivated. I had went to a place called Thermalito and saw nothing but a cemetery in the middle of this residential neighborhood. And I knew it had belonged to us at one time, or it does still. And it was actually the cemetery for the home. And there was nothing left of the home. But I had all these records, all these photos. I knew this great story. And I have to tell you, a topic that I thought would never take off has turned out being one of the most interesting topics, at least the number of times I've been invited to Butte County to speak. And so the home does have relevance here, and I will lead into that. Until 1870s, the order nationwide, it was focused on just burying the dead, assisting each other with employment, and providing financial assistance when it was needed. We helped each other. It was definitely a secret society at that time as well. And we provided sort of an insurance for our membership. We took care of each other. That focus has changed a bit as the members have become older, and the cost of bearing members has significantly risen. But members, as they became older, the membership started seeing there was a need. Remember, they were a lot of younger members in their 20s and 18, 19. They were young, but by the time 1860s were coming around, they realized that they had this older segment of members who needed care. And the first home was established in Pennsylvania in 1872. That concept was unheard of. Of course, you had sanitariums, asylums, you had prisons, but you didn't have homes for the elderly. So the Oddfellows, they actually beat the Masons to it. So they established the first home in 1872 in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania went on in the first 10 years to have 7 more homes in that state. Those members who joined the order in those early years were now elderly, and they required care more than any lodge could offer. Homes for the aged sprang up in several states. The concept of having a home for the aged finally reached California in the 1880s. Those early California members who arrived with the gold rush were now aging. The topic was discussed numerous times by the Californians, but moving too slowly. Not everyone was on board with the changing the way the Oddfellows operated. They wanted to just keep it the way it was. Departing from routine is rarely easy. So these members battled for about 10 years on whether or not to start this home, because they knew it would be costly to the lodges as well, costly to the membership. So they fought back and forth. I hate to say fought, but it comes across that way in the old journals. Those who desired change and attention given to the aged membership wanted one or the other. They wanted a pension fund for the older members or a home provided for them. They wanted them cared for. It wasn't until 1892 that a special committee was appointed to investigate the possibility of having a home. In 1893, this committee brought back several ideas to create a home. The committee also recommended 5 trustees be elected to implement the ideas and plans for this home. William Barnes, who was one of the first home trustees, played an important role in establishing the idea of a home, bringing that to reality. Years later, he would be buried on the site of the Saratoga home property. Not a lot of people know there's a cemetery, a very small one, on the site of the Oddfellows home off Fruitvale over there. In the first report, the trustees, home trustees, there were several locations proposed. There was a 75-room hotel in San Gabriel. There was a 38-room hotel with 15 acres in Anaheim. There was a 60-room hotel surrounded by orange groves on 20 acres in Mound City. All had seemingly decent prices. The trustees had presented excellent options to the membership. By 1894, 15 properties had been considered. It should be noted that one of those locations investigated by the trustees was in Santa Clara County. Remember, this was in 1894. The trustees believed the climate of Santa Clara, it was unsuitable at that time. And that happened to be in Saratoga, which I find ironic. The trustees continued their search. Suddenly, out of nowhere, there were 3 members up in a little place called Thermalito. They were investors and developers, and they had been building a hotel. And the hotel was called the Bella Vista. It was going to be the largest hotel north of Sacramento. They couldn't finish it. They ran out of money. So what did they do? They came to the trustees and they offered the property and the home free of charge to the order. It was nearly done. Of course, the hotel came with 8 acres of land. The Feather River ran along one side of the property. The people of Orville, the town across the river, offered $3,000 to finish the hotel. The plastering of the walls, that's what needed to be done. That's all that needed to be done. And that would cost $3,000. This was by far the best offer made, and it was free. On December 11th, 1894, the order decided to accept the offer of the property in Thermalito. It was a no-brainer. In short time, the home was dedicated on April 26, 1895. The home was slated to open July 1st, 1895. In its first year of operation, the home admitted 79 qualified persons. One of those members was deemed insane and removed to the asylum. There were many adjustments to be made after all. This was a new project of the California Oddfellows. Now, I know I can't go into it, but the story of the residents are amazing. I mean, this is where the interest really is. So if we were just talking about Thermalito, I'm sure this conversation would go much longer. In 1896, a special committee was appointed to conduct an investigation of the home. So they just opened. And within 2 years, those who still opposed the idea of having a home opposed having the home, brought together an investigation, and a committee was appointed to look into the hotel, and they were looking for anything wrong, anything. And you'll see the remainder of the time the home was there in Thermalito, they always had this investigating committee against it. It became too much, but I'll read a little bit here. Despite the continued opposition, the home continued to expand. It purchased more surrounding land. It constructed more buildings. It added cottages, storehouse, a blacksmith shop, stables, barns, a laundry building, a post office, a pharmacy, and eventually a hospital, to mention a few. The original 8 acres was now 75 acres. The trustees also added 40 more rooms to the home. By 1899, the lodges in opposition of the home disapproved being assessed to support the home. The Special Investigation Committee continued its negative reports. Some residents complained of the hot weather. Others complained of the mosquitoes, which was supported by cases of malaria. What would normally be minor inconveniences or concerns were exaggerated by the investigation committee. Of course, the suicides that occurred on a regular basis didn't help things. I don't know if people realize, but when you look into the history of older homes, there were a lot of suicides, and they didn't have guns. So some of these suicides were creative. I mean, you had one lady who walked out in front of the home into the pond at 3 a.m. in the morning and laid down in the pond and drowned herself. You had another member write a poem on a chalkboard, set it next to the bathtub, lay in the bathtub, and he cut his throat and slit his throat with a razor. So that was, those are the interesting stories. There's a number of those. In short, the complaints came every year, and each incident was dooming the home at Thermalito. By 1901, another committee was appointed by the Grand Lodge to search for a new site. So 7 years later, you had already a site committee appointed. So they had already began looking for other suitable areas for a home. By 1908, the site committee, after examining 80 properties in less than 2 years, selected an 85-acre site with 5,000 fruit trees close to Saratoga Springs. On September 24th, 1908, the Oddfellows purchased a property called Oakwood Farm from John and Bessie Stetson for a price of $16,000. While the Grand Lodge was making plans for a new home, the Thermalito home trustees were still expanding. The hospital had burnt down in a fire, and a new hospital was built in 1910. So you can see the trustees of the home were still going strong, and it's sort of ignoring this push to have a new home in Saratoga. I mean, as late as 1910, they're still building places, and so, which is incredible. It does come across that way in the journals too, that there was opposition. You had both these sides, one determined to stay in Thermalito and one determined to start a new home in Saratoga. By 1911, the bids came in to construct the new home in Saratoga. The new home would cost $236,342.36. The cornerstone of the new home was laid on October 7th, 1911. I believe we have some photos of the new construction. There's the cornerstone. The Grand Master Hudson was there, and with many dignitaries, and they were putting the container, which that's copper. They're putting that copper container into the cornerstone. As I said, the new home was constructed. The plan to move into residence was set for November 18th, 1912. And there are several buildings that are being built at this time. And I know we have several pictures. You'll get to see those. And it took, it didn't take long to get those buildings up, probably less than 8 months. They moved fast. 133 residents which they called inmates at that time, were transported to the new home. 105 men and 28 women. At 5 a.m. after breakfast, they were taken to the Western Pacific Railroad the people of Orville provided automobiles to move the residents to the train depot. There was a grand send-off to bid farewell to the residents, and at 7 p.m. the train departed. Excuse me, 7. Let's see, where is that? Yeah, it's 7 a.m. The train departed for its 200-mile journey. In Sacramento, the travelers were transferred to the Southern Pacific Railroad. The train came through each station. There were Oddfellows and Rebeccas and citizens there holding signs to greet them. Imagine on a train making your way 200 miles in each town you come through. There's a big parade for you and signs and people cheering. They stopped in Stockton to be treated to dinner before resuming their trip to Congress State Junction. When the train finally arrived to Congress Junction, it was met by at least 50 automobiles, and the residents were taken to the new home. What you see now on the screen is the administration building. That building still stands. It was remodeled, but it still stands, and it looks very much the same. Has a couple big trees in front of it now. And today, this is the Saratoga home. And with that, I think the next part of this lecture will be, I'm going to be turning over to Rita Cooper. And I'd like to thank you. There's another shot of the administration building. Beautiful, beautiful. That's all I have to bring us to Saratoga.
Okay. So this is Rita speaking. I suppose, Tom, you're sharing the screen with me?
Yeah, Rita, you should be all set to go ahead and share your presentation.
Okay. There we go. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes, looks good.
Okay, great. Well, Peter is very eloquently and has given you the entire history of how the Oddfellow homes became. I myself are going to talk about the homes of today. And just to recap, you know, Peter's gone through this operation, I think at 1895, actually, when it started, the Thermalito, and then everybody moving to Saratoga, California in 1912. And today, I'm going to talk about two homes. We actually have two homes. This one you're familiar with, which is the Saratoga Retirement Community. I will come back to that, and I will start off with our new home, which we expanded and purchased. It's called the Meadows of Napa Valley in 1992. And it originally was, Saratoga and Napa was managed by two separate entities. And eventually the organization was merged, what today is known as the Oddfellows Homes of California, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. It is an independent corporation to the Oddfellows. It is run by a board of directors that come from, which are elected at our Grand Lodge sessions from the Oddfellows, the Rebeccas, and also we have a resident from each of the homes who's also on the board. This is a picture of the Meadows of Napa Valley. I'm going to talk a little bit about basically what they say from their website, which is our lush 20-acre campus offers a variety of gorgeous homes in several styles, including studio, 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 2-bedroom deluxe models. No matter which home you choose, your spacious new residence will be tastefully appointed to fit your individual taste and lifestyle. All of the spacious, light-filled homes of the Meadows are equipped with the finest finishes and amenities. Enjoy gorgeous countertops, high-quality flooring, modern appliances, individually controlled heating and cooling, an emergency response system, and a private patio, among other exceptional features. The amenities throughout your home will ensure you are continually encompassed in comfort and luxury. Personalization options are also available to truly make your new space feel like home. The members, the Rebeccas, and also Oddfellows, there are benefits, and I'll explain the details of that in a few more slides. But if you are a member of an Oddfellow and a Rebecca, you actually have discounts off your rent or your monthly charges. The Better California Living, I think this applies very much to both Saratoga and also Napa. Moderate climate. We have unparalleled services and amenities and floor plans. This is something I've just spoken about from their website. It has comprehensive wellness programs, skilled nursing, rehabilitation, assisted living, and memory care. This is the front door of the Meadows of Napa Valley. Again, it's 20 acres of resort styling living in one of the most coveted destinations in the US. They offer actually a number of plans. There's a studio, 1 bedroom. That's actually the floor plan you're seeing is a 1 bedroom, a 2 bedroom, and a 2 bedroom deluxe, which actually can go up to close to just over 1,900 square feet is the deluxe one. This will give you some idea of, we actually have added recently a 92 extension, beautiful homes, which has expanded the existing Meadows of Napa Valley. And this will give you an insight of what it looks like inside the bedroom, the kitchen, lounge, and other rooms. Okay. The Meadows of Napa Valley, obviously you're in a beautiful area, which there's a lot to do in Napa and surrounding areas. Part of the expansion of Meadows of Napa is it has a 6,000 square foot fitness and aquatic center. I actually represented the Grand Lodge Board of Directors as the liaison to the home board, and I can tell you that the facilities, particularly of the new extensions, are absolutely magnificent. This is the new pool, and also you can see on the right-hand side the fitness center. The food is superb. They have wonderful cooks, chefs. There's actually 3 on-site restaurants. One is called Vila on Temperado and a Rebecca's Bistro. And also if you want private dining, that's available too. Again, the dining rooms are magnificent. Now to go more onto the homes, back to the Saratoga Retirement Community. Saratoga has been serving seniors since 1912. It is owned by the Independence Order of Oddfellows and Rebeccas, and one of the oldest fraternal orders in the world. And the order's commitment to serving others is reflected in all aspects of the Saratoga lifestyle, from the comfort accommodations to the excellent healthcare and incredible array of service and amenities. In 1999, Saratoga came under the executive management of PRS, which is it's actually a management company which oversaw the large campus expansion that includes completely renovating the historic Saratoga Manor building, adding more apartment homes and cottages, and constructing a fireside lounge and bar, fitness center, indoor pool, bocce court, and other resort styles amenities. The Saratoga has 3 plans. You're seeing a 1-bedroom floor plan there. It has 2-bedroom apartments. It also has 2-bedroom cottages. And this will give you the appearance of the kitchen areas, the living areas, and also the bedrooms. And again, you are familiar with Saratoga with its beautiful climate. We all love to live in the Bay Area. And obviously, Saratoga, very much centrally located to the best of Northern California. Again, the food is great. They have excellent chefs there, elegant dining and social spaces right on the campus itself. Members of the Oddfellows who live here enjoy exclusive benefits, and I'll go into details about that. If you're a 15-year member, actually that has come down this year. It's actually a minimum is 10 years or more. You receive $30 for each year membership towards their monthly rent. For instance, if you're a 15-year member, you'd get $450 off your rent or your monthly charge. We have many members in the order who are 30 years or more. And again, it would be $900 off your rent. And if you have a spouse who is either a Beck or an Oddfellow, we will take the highest year's membership, but the spouse will add another $6 each to the spouse membership. And every 5 years, once you're in the home, your rates are assessed and your benefits go up to the tune of $30 for each year. And if you're interested or anybody interested, this is our contact. Also, I encourage people who like to go and visit our homes. They should go to the Meadows of Napa Valley or to the Saratoga Retirement Community, and to get a they can get a tour either by Zoom or other means. So most of the information and contact information is on the website. And there we are. So that's a brief of the Meadows of Napa Valley home and also the Saratoga home.
Thank you, Peter and Rita.
Welcome.
I'm now going to open it up to any questions that anybody might have. We do have some on chat, which I'm trying to bring up here. So one question was, were the initial homes open to both men and women?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and primarily widows.
Okay. And how and why did the Saratoga facility change from being a retirement home for needy Oddfellows and Rebeccas to a luxury retirement community for people with plenty of money?
That's a good question.
Well, I can tell you, I was there in 1999, and the facility at that time was in a state of decay, and you really couldn't get the funding to do the work there. We had to borrow $140 million from Cal Mortgage, and we had to show them a plan on how we would repay that loan over a period of 20 years or so, and which we have done. So we had to open it up to the public. We could no longer guarantee a home for our members. That concept went away because of affordability. We're not the Masons where you have to leave, if there are any Masons here. If you go to Union City, you usually have to bestow bequeath your estate to the Masons, and then you would be provided to live in that home for the Masons in Union City. The order wasn't set up that way. We didn't have that concept, so we were poor, and we probably would have lost that building or lost that property if we didn't open it up. And the price of living is expensive. The buy-in is expensive, even though I don't have anything to do with that part of the business. I was on the Grand Lodge, the parent corporation's board at that time. And I remember the membership overwhelmingly voted yes to do this. And that's why we have these luxurious homes open to everybody. And we expanded that concept down into Napa. I think Rita may be able to affirm this or not. I think we borrowed close to $70 million a few years back to renovate that facility. And those things are being paid down, or if not paid down already, but we've managed to pay those loans very quickly. I will add, this is, the parent corporation no longer, we've turned the homes over to the Oddfellows home board. They control it now, a separate board, a separate corporation made up of members, and 3 at large. It could be 3 non-members. So we have professionals on that board now. We lacked in the beginning, we lacked enough of those type of people being active on that level. We didn't have the doctors per se, the CPAs, the financial experts, and we didn't have that professionalism on our boards. Now we do. So that's why we find us with a brand new luxurious home. That was a decision made so we could keep those homes and here in Saratoga, at least keep our name on it and use it for our, for our board dinners are there once a year, or Christmas dinner and holiday dinner, I should call it. And every now and then we get a tour. Now and then there are picnics, which we enjoy there. I don't know if anybody mentioned, but next to it is what we call the foundation. That is the best kept secret in Saratoga. It's available through HUD housing. So if you ever wonder where your HUD housing was in your city, because you're required to have it, it's right next door in a very luxurious place as well. And membership, I'm not sure. I think HUD had given us permission to place our members at the top of the list or move quicker through the list, but there is a waiting list for that HUD program.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful facility too, and that's also ran by a separate, actually a separate board of trustees, and beautiful location. Anyway, that's why we have what we have today.
Now here's another question. She says, I have seen IOOF signs in Gilroy and Hollister. Are they still active?
Gilroy is still active. That's Mound Lodge. Hollister is no longer a lodge, but you'll find those signs on the buildings. The IOOF, as I told you, people confuse those as addresses, 100F, but it's yeah, Hollister's gone. Gilroy's still there.
Yes. Just to chip in here, if I may, at Gilroy, Oddfellows also owns, or at least the Rebecca's owns the Children's Services, which actually that itself is a beautiful sort of campus and serves the community in a number of counties for troubled children. So that's another story.
Yeah, that's been there 125 years too.
Yeah, right. And I know we're servicing. They are on the payroll is close to 240 people who the Children's Services employs, and they have approximately over 3,000 children that they're helping with, psychological problems, etc.
So I also know somewhere in the history of the IOOF, there were many presidents that were members. Could you briefly touch upon that?
I can. There were 4 presidents in our order, not as many as the Masons had. Let me see if I can name them. Ulysses Grant.
Yes.
Hayes.
Yeah.
Hayes was one of them. Yeah.
Roosevelt.
Rutherford Hayes. Franklin Roosevelt. Rutherford Hayes. Garfield. Rutherford Hayes. Garfield. Oh,
Yeah.
and Truman.
Yeah,
Truman
and also
was-
Wyatt Earp. Wyatt Earp as well.
You know, I've never been able to verify Wyatt Earp, but yeah, Truman, Hayes, Grant, and
Yes.
who's the other
Thank
one?
you.
Was-
Here's another question. Is there any information on the cemetery? Are there ever tours or presentations on the cemetery?
Again, we're not. I know Rita and myself. Rita was a liaison from our Grand Lodge board, our parent corporation, and the home board, and I would not know that answer.
The answer is not officially, but I know Gerald Porch, past Grandmaster Gerald Porch, who's also on the home board. If anybody or group of people wanted to visit the cemeteries at Saratoga, he would do that. And so it is tucked away. It's originally on Saratoga property, but it's up a leafy lane. You have to go through gates and so forth to actually reach it. There was a photograph that I'd sent. I don't know whether we have that. Tom, do we have that picture?
Yeah,
There you go.
William
That's the
Barnes.
one there. There's the Barnes. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, William Barnes was a prominent Oddfellow. He was on the original board of trustees to locate that location, and he stayed on it for years. And I can recognize his picture in many historical photos. He stayed around. I think he lived till 1923. He was also he's also in my Civil War book. So he's a prominent member, and they loved him. I mean, the members loved him. The residents of the homes, they loved him. I've always wanted to write something about him.
Right. I took this particular photograph, and as you can see, it pretty well covers probably about a half of the area, but most of the graves are actually on markers. This is obviously Barnes is a prominent sort of headstone there.
One comment that we have here is that there's over 5,000 IOOF members buried in the cemetery. So it's quite large, and I'm sure I'm sure it's quite an old cemetery.
Yeah, I would again, that's an area I'd still like to research and dig into. Not literally, but it sounds like a very interesting topic.
Can women be members of IOOF?
Yes, they are.
And they're still breaking through today, believe it or not. I mean, we're down to, of our 110 lodges, we're down to 17 lodges without women yet. But I can tell you, the lodge Rita belongs to and the lodge I belong to, San Francisco being probably, you can guess, the most progressive. We have nearly half the members there are women.
Yes.
And Saratoga,
women are allowed,
is pretty progressive. So
yeah, women are allowed to join. I think it was 2000 when women were allowed to become Oddfellows, and similarly, Rebeccas. Men were allowed to become Rebeccas, probably at the same time.
men were always allowed to become Rebeccas.
Oh, they were, yeah.
The women, it was a big move though to bring women in, and accepted by me. I sure liked it. It gave us a boost.
Great. So one of the comments concerning the cemetery is that there is a database of all the people buried there. And there's a complete booklet written by a resident of SRC about the cemetery that was written in 2018. So
you might want to do your picture as well.
So they got ahead of you in terms of writing something.
Yeah, but they don't have all the information of Barnes. You know how long his eulogy was? It was
How long?
11 pages.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine that?
Gallery view?
And you know the way they used to have funerals? It's interesting. We can get off the topic easily, but I do want to mention this since you have some historians here. When the Oddfellows first started in 1819 in Baltimore, when a member would pass away, they would conduct a ceremony. the ceremony would start at 10 p.m., where a procession would meet out in front of the Oddfellows Hall, and it would depart on a 1-mile trip to the cemetery at 10 p.m. at night. It would arrive at midnight, and the Oddfellow members would conduct a ceremony over the grave. And in the early days, the clergy and the Oddfellows battled. This wasn't accepted by the clergy very easily until something was worked out. And but can you imagine starting a procession at 10 p.m. and ending at midnight? So I was, and they'd all be down carrying candlelights and going down the street for 1 mile and down up a road onto a hill to the cemetery. And I wonder if they did any of that here.
They don't see your hand, just talk. Just say, I have a question.
That's very interesting. Somebody mentioned the name of the person that did the inventory of the cemetery was Mr. Kowalski, I'm sorry.
That sounds familiar.
And it was not a piece on each person, but an inventory of burials.
That's awesome. That's helpful in itself.
Harwood Kolsky.
Oh, thank you. It sounds familiar.
Right, Helen. Well, say something and they'll know you want to. I say, I have a question.
Kolsky.
What are they asking for?
Howard Kolsky. Let me write this down.
It's a question time.
Yeah, ask a question. I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
This is Tony Vanderstein. I'm at Saratoga SRC.
Yes.
What is the difference between the Rebeccas and the Oddfellows?
Nothing. No. The Oddfellows have a number of degrees, which are 3, and there are 4 actually, and those teach different principles like friendship, love, and truth, and one on mortality. I call it, the initiatory is really based on mortality. The Rebeccas have 1 degree, and that's based on what's that, uniform type of work, like a beehive where all the bees work. And so the Rebeccas pride themselves on working and and having a good heart. So we started out differently, and as you know, the Rebeccas started in 1851. It was the inception of the Rebeccas. The outline was written by Schuyler Colfax, who became vice president, also Speaker of the House during the Civil War. He was a prominent member of the order. He actually wrote the Rebecca degree.
Colfax.
So it's, what do they do today? I would say the Rebeccas are holding on. I think they're down to about 60 lodges. They're still trying their best because, you know, when we opened up to women, a lot of the women joined the lodges, the Oddfellow lodges, and without considering the Rebecca lodges. But members like me, my wife, we belong to the Rebecca Lodge and the Oddfellows Lodge, and there are other factions in this order. But what do they do today? They do pretty much the same. I think it's just a determination, a will of the Rebecca Assembly, the Rebeccas, to perpetuate themselves. It's a historic organization. This year they're celebrating their 170th year. So, you know, how do we simply let that go? And again, their pride and joy is Gilroy, as their children's home, Rebecca Children's Services. And as you heard Rita mention, that's still there, beautiful grounds, well ran. They have everything to be proud of. They're holding on to that. I don't know, you know, I just hope they sustain.
Yeah.
There's an interesting story too, going back to Thermalito. They actually decided to put an orphan's home in Thermalito next to the, they proposed that, next to the Oddfellows home. And I can tell you, if you read my book, and it's in the journals, the Rebeccas oppose that adamantly. They oppose having children around the older people. I mean, they fought it and they said, heck no. And they insisted, and they found their own property in Gilroy, and they established themselves there. So yeah, the Rebeccas are
About
coexisting.
volunteering. I was going to ask about the volunteering when you're an Oddfellow. I presume that is most of what you do is volunteer effort. Is that correct?
Yes, we do. And each lodge is philanthropic or volunteering in their own way. Some lodges, I'd say the small minority don't, but many of the lodges do. They volunteer. We have volunteers. I can only speak for San Francisco right now. I know others can. We volunteer to help at food lines, food kitchens. We volunteer to do trash cleanups. We volunteer to hand out, let's say during COVID, we handed out masks, 500 masks in front of our building in one day. I mean, we do things on that level. We do involve ourselves in our community. Even though we're not listed as philanthropic either, we do much of that too. We do give quite a bit.
Well, other than that, your philanthropy is mostly through gifting to specific selected charities. Is that correct?
Yes, and that varies from lodge to lodge and who they support. And in San Francisco and my lodge, there are 8 lodges in San Francisco with about 1,200 members. What we do is in my lodge, we have we decide what we're going to contribute to. It has to be a 501c, and it has to be in San Francisco, because remember, our goal is to bring attention to our lodge so we can keep our membership levels. We want to be an attraction to that community. Yeah, and we're social too. I mean, we do have socials where we do invite the community as well. And so
I think it's important to point out that we are not a 501c3. We are actually a 501c8. And if you look at the IRS definition of that, it is basically we are based on a large system, and we must give benefits to our members. That's one of the criteria of the 501c8. So as Peter said, I know my lodge, we actually participate very much in the food bank. I'm also an associate member of the Berkeley Lodge, and I know that we gift a lot of money to food pantries, particularly through COVID, where people were having difficulty in feeding themselves. So, but 501c8, I can give you just an example that this Sunday, my lodge, that's Morse Lodge 257, based in San Francisco. All of us, actually it was paid for by the lodge, had a wonderful brunch on the bay through the Hornblower cruise. You may be familiar with that, with a band, and it was a beautiful day, and we had a buffet. We had a particular room all to ourselves, and it was a glorious day, sailing past the Golden Gate Bridge, back through Alcatraz and beyond the Bay Bridge, so forth and so on. So just one event, and we have many that we treat each other as brothers and sisters, and we enjoy each other's company, and we do a lot of things together, which is very nice.
Thank you.
I do have a question here. Are there tours available of the large lodge in Saratoga?
Of the home, yes. I know they can give tours. Isn't that right, Rita?
Yes, I would go to the website and go to the Saratoga Retirement Community. The executive director there is Sarah Stell. She's very good. She's relatively new there, but call that number and say you would like to have a tour. I'm sure they would be happy to give you one, so you can see the entire premises, what have you. And similarly with the meadows, if you're interested if you want a nice drive out to Napa, go and visit the Meadows too. Meadows is a wonderful home. You know, it's independent living there. Most people are independent living, but obviously they do have assisted living, skilled nursing, memory, etc. But again, you know, I trying to Wayne, I can't pronounce his name. Pancheron, is that correct, Peter?
Yeah, yes.
You're right,
Close
and
enough.
he's the executive director. Both of them actually work for Pacific Retirement Community, which is a really good professional management company. They manage a lot of homes on the West Coast area, and they do a great job for us. So yes, just pick up the phone and go to the website. There's all the contact information on both homes, Meadows and Napa Valley, or the Saratoga Retirement Community. I'm sure they'd be happy to show you around.
I also see a message from Connie that says we can also give you a tour at the Saratoga Lodge building next to the Historical Foundation building on Saratoga Las Gatas Road. So lots of
Sure.
tours available.
Right, that used to be the Grand Lodge. We used to rent from the Saratoga home many years ago, and not so long actually, where the Grand Lodge office used to be. But now we have our own independent building in San Jose, you know, where the Grand Lodge of the jurisdiction of California resides.
Well, I think we're running out of questions, but I do want to thank both of you for just a wonderful, informative presentation. I really learned a lot by listening to both of you. So I thank you very much. And I thank the audience for coming. We have just a reminder that if you want a recording of this presentation, it's on our website in about 1 week, and it's at www.saratogahistory.com. So you can once again hear the presentation again. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you too.
Most welcome. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. This ends the presentation. Thank you.